This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm sitting here with none other than Christine Cushing. How are you today, Christine?
I'm well. How are you, Jamie?
I'm very well, thank you very much. We're going to lead off this little session with a question for you about the importance of food in your family home when you were growing up.
Well, I can't underscore that enough. Food for us, my father was actually my inspiration. People ask me who was my inspiration, what chef. More than anything, it was my dad, because he was a crazy cook. He loved to cook. It oozed out of his pores. So much so that when we sat down for lunch, let's say it was a Saturday, and we'd finish our lunch, he would say, "What are we going to have for dinner?" And I'm like, "Dad, we just ate lunch." He goes, "Never mind. I need to know what we're going to have tonight." So that's how I grew up. Pretty meager beginnings. I mean, we really didn't have a whole lot in terms of quality and high-end food, but really it was the essence of that food was everything for us. We loved it, and that's where I get it from, for sure.
Now, you were born in Athens. When did you find your way to Toronto?
I call myself manufactured in Greece, assembled in Canada, because I was born in Athens, and we came the old school way on the ship. It took us 6 weeks to get here, yes, and I had my first birthday in Canada, so I'm pretty Canadian, really, if you think about it.
And what are your thoughts on both Greek cuisine and Canadian cuisine today?
Well, I think that Greek cuisine obviously has been around for a long, long time. I think the one thing that I've learned from going back so often now is that the world doesn't know enough about Greek cuisine. And especially in North America, what North Americans deem Greek cuisine is like a small smidgen of what Greece has to offer. So I say that it needs to be explored more, and it needs to kind of find its niche. And there's so many great things that you can eat in Greece that people have no clue of. Canadian cuisine, I think, has come a long way from when I first landed here in my, when I was a year old. You had to buy liquor at the liquor store, and you had to fill out like a little form. So
I've heard
it was
these.
like an apothecary.
Yes, yeah.
It was just the most bizarre thing. So we've certainly come a long way. And I think what's great, because we don't have a culture of food, or this country didn't have a culture of food, that all of the immigrants have come and sort of laid a tapestry of sort of a new cuisine using the beautiful ingredients that Canada has to offer. So I find that exciting.
Do you incorporate elements of your kind of your Greek ancestry into your cooking today?
I do that a lot more than before. When I went to culinary school, it was all about France. I spent a year at cooking school in France and then cooked here in Toronto, but when I came back, I was kind of like a French food snob. It all had to be French. But somehow the older I get, I do see the Greek thing coming up. I love the Mediterranean. I love all aspects of the Mediterranean. So there's so much, again, as I said, that people haven't discovered, and it sort of plays softly. It's one of the instruments, certainly, in the band that I play, for sure.
Now, previous to you going to culinary school, you did actually read linguistics at Toronto University, I believe.
Yes, the University of Toronto,
and,
yes.
And how did you make that switch from doing that? When did you decide that you were actually going to make food your career?
I cooked from the time I was a little kid. I mean, I put my hands into pots. I was always in the kitchen. And I sort of had two love affairs. Again, from my dad. My dad spoke 5 languages. It came very naturally to him, and so we have that in common. And I loved languages. I studied French. I just love, Greek. I love the idea of language. So I thought, well, I'm going to do the practical thing. I'm going to, do my parents proud. They suffered. They came on a boat. They had nothing. What am I going to do? Cook? No, I'm going to make them proud. But literally 1 year at U of T, sitting by the window, like almost crying. It was the worst year of my life. I mean, I hated it. I loved the language, but I realized I didn't like the study and the confines of, just couldn't imagine myself doing that for a living. So I bailed. I'm like, I'm going to cooking school, parents, hate to tell you.
And how did they take that?
It was it was coming home to tell, I was a grade A student. I had skipped a grade. Like, I was very academic as a kid, and I loved going to school. So coming home and telling my mother, actually more than my father, that I was going to do this, I dreaded it. She was not impressed, but I was cooking all the time, even at that stage. At home, I was starting a cooking business. I was making cakes for some restaurants. Like, I was doing this while I was going to school. So they knew I was totally passionate about it, and they did support me. I have to give them props for that.
Now, one thing you've moved into over the years is you actually have a product line, and I was lucky enough to have a chance to taste some of your olive oil last night. Tell us a little bit about how the olive oil came around and why olive oil.
Well, again, going back to my heritage and being Greek in the Mediterranean, olive oil to me is sort of one of the staples of the kitchen. Not only from a health point of view, but from a flavor point of view. So many people ask me, well, what kind of olive oil do you use? Give me some advice. What should I use? And I thought, well, this is the perfect thing for me to start my foray into the business of a line of food products, which I believe really so many chefs from other parts of the world have done this, and yet really no Canadian had been doing it. And I thought, well, what's wrong with us? We have a different sensibility here in Canada. And why should we always just take what a European says? Not that there's anything wrong with that, to use it that way. But I really wanted to set off on a different journey for myself, and one that's been very challenging but very rewarding at the same time.
Now, you have two different olive oils. Tell me a little bit about the difference between the two of them. I was tasting them last night, but having some trouble describing exactly what I was feeling. I'm used to tasting wine, and I was trying to apply the same rules to tasting olive oil, but that was sort of missing the correct vocabulary.
Right, it was a little bit more slippery than the wine.
Yeah.
Well, I started, my first product that I brought in was a beautiful extra virgin olive oil from Crete. This was now 6 years ago. It's a DOP, similar to wine would be a DOP, so it's controlled, very high quality, very low acidity. This particular oil has an olive known as a koroneiki, and it's native to Greece. My mom happens to be from Crete, so that was the reason I went to Crete. Once I tasted this oil, it's bold, it's very, very intense, but at the same time it has a smoothness about it. The pepper comes, but it has a cleanness on the palate. It doesn't have an oiliness or a greasiness about it. And it has a very long finish, if we're going to use kind of the wine vernacular. Now, the interesting thing when I decided to introduce a new oil, because more and more people are asking for organics, I thought, okay, I wanted to stick with the Greek story because I think that the Italian story has been told a lot, and I feel truly that if I'm going to tell a story, if I'm going to add something, that there has to be something new there. I mean, what more can I tell to that? And I don't have the same connection as I do to Greece. So the interesting thing is these two oils have the same olive. So if we talk about terroir, as in wines, they have the same olive. This one I call Bold, is from Crete, and that's the original oil I brought in. The second one I call Vibrant, and it's 100% USDA organic, on the lower southern Peloponnese. So if you imagine Greece, the map, it's a landmass that's divided north and south with a little waterway in between, and then you have some islands. This oil, the Vibrant, comes from the southern mainland of Greece, so this area here. Coastal region, very rocky, quite arid in parts, but has more rainfall certainly than Crete, where this one comes from. So same olive, two different terroirs, completely different flavor. This one I called Vibrant because it has a much more subtle flavor. It has, again, round notes. It's a little bit more buttery. You do get that herbaceous that's common in olive oil, so freshly mown grass, but less so than this one. But what you do get is a more subtle pepper. The pepper doesn't come forward with the one from Crete, which is why I called it Bold. The pepper says, I'm Greek and I want to kiss you. It's going to be so good. Greeks are not very good at subtlety. This one here is a little more subtle, which is why I called it Vibrant, and the connection really to it being organic. So I didn't just want to make the distinction of one being organic and one not. I wanted people at home to try it and say, okay, this one I can use in more softer preparations. So if I'm dressing a lighter lettuce, for example, a Boston bib, which is subtle and delicate, this is going to give you nicer, a little more subtle notes. But then the pepper is still there, the quality, the finish is still there. The other thing about this is I actually used it to make my brownies. So Interestingly, chocolate and olive oil do have notes that marry well together. A little bit of pepper, a little bit of spicy notes. So it was a great foray into what would happen if I married the olive oil with the chocolate. This recipe was inspired by a blog that I was judging, and somebody had made combined chocolate and olive oil. And I loved the essence of that, so I played around with it a lot, and I came up with these spiced chocolate pecan brownies. So I gotta have you try them, because again, those notes are similar, and because this oil is not as intense, the flavor really works well with the chocolate. You're amazed. You're thinking,
I'm
what?
trying to work
Chocolate
out
at all?
how can I film this and eat the brownie at the same time.
I'm going to pass it to you. How about that? I'm going to go, here it is. You can see the nuts. So there you go.
Wow, okay.
Okay, and give it a try and see what you think. I added a little bit of spice. So there's a touch of clove and a touch of cinnamon to it. And I used a very high quality chocolate. Again, lots of 75% cocoa. So there aren't any other fillers in there.
That's really quite delicious.
Do you like that?
And you just made these just this
I
morning?
made them
or?
this morning so that
Oh.
you could have them fresh. Very simple process, but really it's, when you ask me about, Greek cuisine, etc., I mean, this certainly isn't Greek cuisine, but the thing about Greek cuisine, similar to Italian, it's all about the ingredients. What makes a great Greek salad? People ask me that. A great tomato, great olives, delicious olive oil that's got quality and flavor, beautiful feta cheese. If the quality of those ingredients aren't at their best, any chef cannot make a great Greek salad. So it really stems with the simplicity and great ingredients.
Well,
What
thank
do
you
you
very
think?
I think it's absolutely marvelous. I just want to keep on eating it, actually.
Okay, well, there's lots more here for you, for sure.
Now, you're a very, very busy woman. How's your new television show doing? How are you enjoying that?
I'm enjoying it immensely. The new show is called Fearless in the Kitchen. And again, it's sort of the idea of why I went on this foray of products. I think as chefs, people who love to cook, it's also about us being challenged and keeping excited about what we're doing. That's the reason I left that linguistics class and went to cook, because I love it. I get excited and I learn something new every day, and I like the challenge of it. This new show is about, it's been around for a couple of years, but it's going into people's homes who cannot cook at all and really helping them to find that thing, to get them excited and to show them, a few great tips, something that'll get them well on their way to being fearless. And that, don't be afraid to make a mistake in the kitchen. That's how you learn. But that there's so much fun and amazing adventures to be had there. I mean, that's the story of my life, really.
Now, where would people be able to pick up this olive oil and find out more about your show, Fearless in the Kitchen?
The best place is to go to my website, ChristineCushing.com. You can find the retailers. It's at places in, some Loblaw stores, some Bruno's, Whole Foods, small specialty markets in Toronto. But ChristineCushing.com, you can find out where to buy it. You can also buy it on my website if you're not living in the city, particularly where it's found. To find out about the show, also, you can click there, because we will be auditioning soon for season 3, which is really exciting. And I'm just so psyched about this new olive oil and the flavor of it, and I want people to try it and use it in different ways, and let me know what they liked about it, how it can, what things I can bring that they would love. I mean, I always like to stay in contact with people, and it keeps us connected through food.
Well, thank you very much for connecting with us today at Good Food Revolution. Really appreciate your time, Christine.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
We'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.